Hello, everybody. It's Rebecca with the Santosha Way, and today I want to talk to you about the upcoming Mercury retrograde in Capricorn. The main concept of this retrograde period is reviewing your legacy, structures, career, your life's work, and the financial supports that you have in place to make any realignments necessary at this time. All right. So Mercury retrograde occurs 3 to 4 times a year, and it can seem to slow things down as it also brings the past back for us to see it with fresh eyes. And it asks us to be very present in our now moment. It's always a good practice to have anyway. But Mercury retrograde can tend to cause a few technology glitches, transportation mishaps, miscommunications. Think of it as one of those mini checkpoints in your life. And so a Mercury retrograde is like a checkup on how you're exchanging information and getting around in your environment. It can also be a time of upgrades or the recognition that upgrades are indeed needed in your life. It's also a time for reviewing contracts. Now that I've been learning a lot more about contracts in the Akashic records, I'm seeing this is the perfect time to review and update your soul contracts, just as much as your real life ones, right? As above, so below. So while you're looking at your, your energy contract or your internet contract, whatever you have in place, it's a great time to also say, what soul contracts do I need to clear up? And how can I course correct in life overall? Of course, if you're ready to have an Akashic Records session, you can get yours at thesantoshaway.com. So now Mercury rules communication, travel, transportation, electronics, neighbors, siblings, all the third house stuff. And when Mercury is direct, we tend to think and communicate more clearly with those around us. Mercury is the messenger of the gods. In retrograde, it can be a little more muddled and confused. This is why we call Mercury a trickster, because sometimes it's a little tricky. It's a time to go inward, though, and dive into the subconscious aspects of our lives, the unseen and inner world, as all retrogrades are for this purpose. All retrogrades are about the introspective aspect, reviewing some part of your life. Mercury is just about communication mostly, right? Remember, past relationships tend to resurface during Mercury retrograde. This is usually advised against jumping back into them because you've been there, you've done that. It's in the past for a reason, right? This is for closure purposes, not for hooking back up. So when your ex shows back up, thank you, goodbye, right? This is a time when your dreams can also be highlighted because it's that inner working world. It's going to bring you insight potentially. What are your dreams communicating to you right now? It's probably a great time to start a dream journal if you've never done that, or pick it back up. Either way, now is the time to practice the pause and up your communication game. Miscommunication, fuzziness, haziness, it's just in the air. Be mindful of this. Pay attention to what you're actually doing, getting, saying, and hearing. Did I hear you correctly? Is this what you intended to say? Right? Clarify. It's a great time for practicing the art of communication. Mercury retrograde is truly about being present, mindful, aware, slowing down to review it all. It gives us 3 chances to revise, reflect, and move forward with our lives in healthier ways. Once is during the pre-shadow period where it clues us in on what we will be revisiting. Then again during the actual retrograde period when we're reviewing our past. And then with that final post-shadow period to wrap it all up and put a nice little bow onto it before we move ahead. So we are in the pre-shadow period right now. Today's Wednesday, December 14th. The sun is in Sagittarius, the moon is in Virgo. Pre-shadow began on Monday, December 12th. So everything that's been coming up for you since Monday is something to pay attention to and be aware of. It is what you will revisit during the retrograde period. All right, now Mercury is in Capricorn. Mercury went into Capricorn on December 6th, and it will stay there until February 11th of 2023. So it's going to be in here for a while, right? That's a good couple of months. Good couple of months. The pre-shadow began on the 12th, and the retrograde period begins December 29th through January 18th. So the much of our beginning of our new year, all of that stuff from New Year's Eve forward, we're going to be in Mercury retrograde. Just be clear with your communication. Be a little extra gracious. The post-shadow period ends on February 8th. So under Mercury retrograde, there are a few points where there are the heaviest, we have the heaviest energies, where communication is really, really intense, or technology really glitches a lot. And this is when we transition from the pre-shadow into the retrograde period, and then when it goes direct and we're coming back out of that into the post-shadow period. So this Mercury retrograde, the heaviest energies are going to be felt December 25th through the 29th, going retrograde on the 29th, and then January 15th through the 18th, and we go direct on the 18th. So those 4 days before we go retrograde and before we go direct are going to be the more intense ends of this energy. Just keep that in mind. I like to mark them on my calendar so I can feel a little bit more comforted if something goes crazy. I can be like, okay, just pause, breathe. We know that the weather is going to be potentially storming on those days. Don't plan your outdoor events, right? Don't plan your conference call that's super duper important on those heavy energy days. This is how you use the energy at play. This is how you prepare for it. This is why I share this information, to inform you about it, so that you can go, that's a really bad time to set up a meeting that's super duper important in my life, right? Or if you can't avoid it, hey, this is a time to prepare extra, get there early, be mindful, practice what you want to say before you just start saying it, right? All of those things. Let's talk about the energies at play. Capricorn is a serious earth sign. Being a cardinal sign, it's an ambitious leader, like it leads the way. It is the mountain goat that climbs up the side of the mountain, right, to make it to the top. Mercury, our planet of communication in Capricorn, when it's in direct motion, is focused on straight talk around the legacy you're leaving, the empire you're building. It's very grounded, strategic conversations. It's stable, it's balanced, diligent, and determined. There's direct conversations, practicality. It's very pragmatic, professionalism, all of those things. Mercury in Capricorn, Mercury wants you to be prepared with your information and have it together when it's in Capricorn. All right. And so you can start asking, what are you building? What's the legacy that you're building, and what are your first steps? And how can you be practical about what you desire as you create your legacy? When Mercury is retrograde Capricorn, the energy is a little different. It's more like potential for misconnections, accidental insults, frustrations surrounding communication, maybe even restrictive communication. Since it's in Capricorn, this could be very much around your legacy work, career, life, or authority figures even. Saturn is the serious and strict ruler of Capricorn, so it's like having a walkthrough and a fine-tune moment, like editing a rough draft for the third time, asking us to become more structured and disciplined in order to reach our legacy-worthy goals. Remember, Saturn wants quality, not quantity. Wherever Capricorn is in your chart, this is where you're going to see the themes rise up for you the most. I'll have a list below so you can look at your rising sign and see what house this is going to be in. That will tell you more about how to prepare in this area of your life. Now, with Venus currently in Capricorn since December 9th, we're not wanting to tolerate any BS in our finances or our relationships this season. We just don't want any part of it. Our value will be matched or not at all. Like you're gonna show up and match my value, or I'm gonna go without. We're gonna be communicating these things. Whatever it is you're looking for, whether it's your career, you're not going to be aligning with anything that is beneath your value at this point. We spent last year reviewing our values. Capricorn, Venus was retrograde Capricorn for like 5 months, really fine-tuning this area of our lives. And then we had a year of Venus transits that reinforced our new values. So by now we should be really solid on what we value and just not taking any crap. We're just not. It's like if it's not aligned, I'm waiting for what is, because that's just what the energy is right now. Invest your energy into situations that align with your values and offer you that sense of stability that you're looking for. With Venus in Capricorn, you're going to have high standards, a taste for finer things, and you might be a little bit obsessed with success. Questions you can ask yourself right now: how can you upgrade your inner dialogue to match the legacy you're creating? It's a really good one. What beliefs can you release or transform that are currently confining you to outdated ways of operation? Remember, Capricorn is our structures, which support us, but if our structures are limited beliefs, then they're confining us. They're holding us back. They're not allowing us to proceed forward. What are you committed to achieving, and how will you feed your mind to get across the finish line? How are you going to keep yourself going when things get a little bit harder as you're creating a legacy? This is a legacy. This isn't a weekend. This is the mark you're leaving on the world. It's a big deal. How are you going to stay committed? What commitments would it serve you to release because they're no longer aligned with your soul path and future legacy? Look, we have to revisit these things every once in a while. There are things we do and agree to and sign up for that are for a season in our life, but not for the rest of our lives. And so when that season's over, it's time to review your commitments and say, oh, I need to let go of this one and that one, shift these habits. What foundational practices need to be restructured or upgraded in order for you to follow that new blueprint for your successful outcome? Do you have some habits that you need to shift or change? Some things you need to recreate in your life, some new structures and support systems? This is what you're revisiting. All right, so retro means revisit, review, reflect, refrain from reacting, relax, y'all, relax. Here's my cheesy saying. I love to say it. If measure twice, cut once is the rule of thumb. Better to measure thrice during a Mercury retrograde. Save yourself the little headache by planning ahead and allow for delays, technology glitches, and potential communication breakdowns. Allow for it. This is also a time when things come up for review in general. So allowing for it doesn't mean that you're welcoming it into your reality as much as you're allowing the space for, look, if it's raining outside, I'm going to allow myself extra time to get to work today because it's just traffic's going to be a little crazier, it's raining, whatever, right? This is allowing. All right. So you're allowing a little bit of space for things to maybe go sideways and just be okay, not get all bunched up over it. So to live well, don't be so practical. Mercury in Capricorn, don't be so practical that you find yourself being narrow-minded. Capricorn is pretty strict about belief systems, restrictive even. So don't be so narrow-minded. Be a little bit open at this time. Be open to what others are trying to communicate to you. Consider the information you are receiving at this time. Remember that a 6 looks like a 9 depending on which end you're standing on, right? Like, open up. Don't be so restricted. Before you hit send, reread that email, text, or post. This is the kind of energy where you accidentally respond all and you only meant to say what you said to one person, right? So before you make your reservations, double check the information, dates, and times. This is the, oops, I double booked myself kind of energy, or I don't know why I set that to go out at midnight instead of noon. I wasn't paying attention, right? Like, double check everything. Back up your devices and hit save frequently. This is the energy where you will have put a whole thing down, typed it all up, and then something happens to it and all the work is lost, right? And if that's the case, if that's what happens in your life, I have a friend who would say, oh, it's always better the next time around anyway, right? Because you already have something that you can build from. So if that's what happens, just breathe and relax and do it again. Slow down, pay attention, communicate with intention. Y'all, we have Mars retrograde Gemini that's telling us to be very intentional about the way we communicate too. All right. Delay signing contracts. It will save you future headaches. This is an interesting one. I'm going to talk about it a little bit here. All right. If you have to sign something, you have to, right? You just have to. It's part of life, is signing an agreement. Maybe you get a new job, whatever it is. If you have to do something, you have to. Just reread and double check everything. Be diligent about what am I agreeing to in this moment. Do take the time to revisit and review your old contracts. That's what the energy is actually for. Over starting a new contract is reviewing the old ones before signing a new one. But we can't always control those things. And interestingly enough, I've heard a different take on this about not delaying signing contracts, right? This is me being a little bit more open-minded and saying, what else is there to consider here? Okay, this person was saying, there are valuable lessons that come with things that you get yourself into that you're denying yourself the opportunity of by avoiding signing a contract, by putting something off and saying the energy doesn't support it right now. One thing that I can use as an example for this is I watched someone under a Mercury retrograde purchase a house, which is like a big no-no. You don't do major purchases under Mercury retrogrades, right? And then I proceeded to watch all these things show up that were wrong with the house. Okay, this is why we don't do that, right? This wasn't fixed right. This repair wasn't done right. All of these things needed to be redone in that moment. Okay, no big deal, right? They did them. They took care of the repairs that weren't done properly. And the most beautiful thing ever was when they were telling the story of the house and how they knew that they wanted to live there. They were talking about how they had driven out in the country one day and saw this house and were like, oh my goodness, all right, well, this is where I would want to live if I ever left the beach, because they actually lived at the beach. And they still live at the beach, just not beachfront anymore. So anyway, they had said, I would love to live at this house if I'm going to live away from the beach. And when the house ended up coming up on the market and they decided to go for it, they did. And with all the things that they found that were wrong with the house, the way that they perceived it was that they were there to take responsibility and to be the new owners of this home and to fix it properly, to love that land, to take care of the home, and to bring it back into the state that it needed to be in, right? The state that it was worthy of being in. So that's an example of how there is a valuable lesson to be learned in that. Signing a contract, and of course they didn't know about Mercury or anything like that. And had they known, I don't know if they would have chosen that house or not, and maybe it would have went to someone else who didn't take care of it the same way. Who knows? So there is a new perspective to consider that says maybe signing contracts isn't the worst thing you can do. Maybe living your life intentionally and being thorough and reviewing everything properly is just the way to be in general. Otherwise, though, I do go with the major general rule of thumb that says delay purchasing new electronics and major appliances or any major purchases under this energy. Just wait 3 to 6-ish weeks, usually about 3 weeks, and see what may come to light before you rush forward. If you make purchases of any kind, get receipts for everything. This is a time when you change your mind or you decide you want to return something after Mercury goes direct, and you're going to want that receipt to do it with. I said it earlier, it's worth saying again, exes have a way of showing up. Save yourself the hassle. You've been there, done that already. No need to allow the energy of Mercury retrograde at play to cause any confusion in your romantic life. Recognize it for what it is. That's old news, an opportunity to release those energies, heal, acknowledge your growth and how far you've come already, and then move forward. It's just resurfacing for you to review and bring closure to the situation. So stay focused, friends. Mercury retrograde is here to help us. This is a huge opportunity for self-care and self-love and compassion for both ourselves and other people in our lives. And, another way to put all this is think of it this way. If you delay roughly 6 weeks of your life, when you take into consideration the shadow period on both ends of the retrograde, let's say you wait 6 weeks to purchase a new car, for example, that you're going to have for 10 years or more. It could be the difference in finding the one that has electrical issues for the next 10 years versus finding the one that is a gem to own. So it's totally worth that short delay in the grand scheme of a decades of time. It's worth the pause and the wait to consider, what am I doing? What am I getting myself into, right? In review, the main key here for a few weeks is that 3 times a year, the universe gives us an opportunity to review our lives. Hold off on the need for instant gratification. Allow for attention, finesse, extra care, breathe, maybe even laugh when the technology glitches happen or there's a communication mishap. Just laugh about it. Don't take it all so seriously. Don't take it personally. It's all good. There's really nothing to fear with Mercury retrogrades. It's an opportunity to take a closer look at your life and be more intentional about your communication and being aware, just being aware. The main concept of this Mercury retrograde is reviewing your legacy, structures, career, your life's work, and the financial supports that you have in place. to make any realignments necessary at this time. Mercury goes retrograde December 29th. Everything that's coming up from you from the 12th forward is what you're going to review under that retrograde period from December 29th to January 18th. Now below I do have your rising signs and the house that this is going to be playing out in for you with Mercury and Capricorn to give you a little bit more of a clue to what you're actually reviewing in your life around your legacy goals as well. All right, guys, that's all I have for you for Mercury Retrograde Capricorn this season. And I hope to see you around in Phased by the Moon or on social media in general. And if you're ready to review your soul contracts, do let me know. I'm happy to have an Akashic Records session with you. And you can find all that information at thesantoshaway.com.